Hey, how's it going? Today, I want to share something that can completely change the way you handle your money. You might have heard that the Chinese are experts at saving, but what you might not know is how they do it. And look, it's not just because they earn more or have some secret trick. It's a mindset, a way of thinking and acting that helps them save and keep their finances always under control. So, if you're over 30 and looking for ways to improve your savings and boost your financial security, stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to explain every detail of how the Chinese secret to saving money works. Shall we get started? Before diving into the content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any tips and also help more people discover these financial secrets. Ready? Then let's go. When we talk about saving, the first thing that comes to mind is putting money aside for the future, right? Now imagine this, for every dollar you earn, you manage to save almost 50 cents. Sounds like a dream? Well, in China, that's a reality. The savings rate there is an impressive 45.9%. In other words, almost half of what people earn ends up being saved. And this isn't just because of high salaries as many might think, but rather due to a different way of thinking about money. Now let's make a comparison. In the United States, for example, the savings rate is much lower, around 4 to 5%. That means for every dollar an American earns, they save only 4 or 5 cents. It's a huge difference, isn't it? But what makes the Chinese able to save so much? First, it's important to understand that, in China, saving is almost second nature. They don't see money just as something to spend on what they want today, but as a tool to ensure a safer and more stable future. That's why they make sure to save, even if it's a small amount, because they know every penny counts. For them, it's as if every saved coin is a seed that will grow and bear fruit later. Now, why is the difference so significant between China and countries like the United States? Much of it has to do with the consumption mindset. While in many Western countries immediate consumption is encouraged, with ads telling you to buy the latest model of a phone, car, or trendy clothes, in China the idea is the opposite. They prioritize tomorrow instead of focusing only on today. So, instead of spending everything they earn, they make sure to save as much as possible so they can invest, protect themselves against emergencies, and build a better future. This savings mindset is what makes the Chinese economy so robust, and it's something we can learn from to apply in our own lives. Even if we can't save half of our salary, thinking more about the future and developing the habit of setting aside a portion of what we earn can make a huge difference down the road. And believe me, you can start small. The important thing is to start and commit to growing this habit over time. So, you can see that the Chinese take saving seriously, right? But there's a reason why this is more than just a financial practice. It's something deeply cultural and historical. That's what we're going to talk about now. When we understand why someone acts a certain way, it becomes much easier to adopt those behaviors in our daily lives. So, let's see what has shaped this highly effective savings mindset. You've probably heard the saying, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? Well, in China, this idea is practically a way of life. And it has a lot to do with the country's history. China has gone through various periods of economic hardship, wars, and scarcity over the centuries. These difficult times left a deep mark on the culture, creating a mindset that it's essential to prepare for uncertain times. Think about it, when you go through a tough situation, what's the first thing that comes to mind to avoid problems in the future? Saving, right? It's as if previous generations had already passed on this lesson. This created a culture where saving money is not just a smart choice but a necessity. And this isn't something new. The Chinese have been taught, generation after generation, that saving is synonymous with security. It's a way to ensure that, no matter what happens, the family will be protected. This habit has become so deeply rooted that, even when the economy is booming, they don't change this mindset. They keep saving, investing, and planning for the future. Meanwhile, in many Western cultures, economic stability tends to encourage an increase in consumption. It's that mindset of, if things are going well, let's enjoy it and spend a little more. But for the Chinese, the logic is different. If things are going well, let's save more to keep things good in the future. This difference is what truly sets the Chinese savings culture apart. So, we can see that the way we save is shaped not only by our daily choices but also by the stories we carry with us. And speaking of stories, this brings us to the next point, which is how saving has become not just a personal act but a true social norm in China. Let's understand how this influences people's behavior. And you know what's even more interesting? In China, saving goes beyond a personal decision. It's something people do because society expects it of them. It's almost like a sign of respect and responsibility. Saving money is not just about securing your future. It's also about showing that you are someone who thinks ahead and cares about the well-being of the family. In other words, in China, saving is seen as a demonstration of character. And this social expectation is one of the main drivers behind the country's high savings rate. There, having a financial reserve is synonymous with status. That's because, for many, it means you are prepared for the unexpected, and more than that, it shows you can ensure your family will have a prosperous future. That's why many Chinese families make a point of maintaining a substantial financial reserve, no matter what stage of life they are in. For them, it's more than just accumulating money, it's a symbol of respect for family and community. And if we stop to think about it, it makes perfect sense. Financial security is a solid foundation to face any adversity that may arise, and this is a lesson that anyone, anywhere in the world can adopt. Here's something to reflect on. Imagine how your life would be if you always had a plan for the unexpected, if saving was seen as a form of care and respect. Well, that's the mindset promoted by Chinese culture, and it's something we can start cultivating too. And now, to make this even more practical, let's talk about a strategy that's not only used in China but has been gaining traction worldwide precisely because of its efficiency: the zero-based budgeting method. Let's see how it works and why it can be a great way for you to start organizing your finances. So, we've already understood that saving is almost a way of life in China, something deeply ingrained in the culture that brings many benefits to those who adopt this mindset. Now let's put it into practice. Because at the end of the day, knowing how to save is just as important as knowing why to do it. And this is where a highly effective strategy comes in, known as zero-based budgeting. Maybe you've heard of it, but I'm going to explain it in a simple and straightforward way so that everyone can understand and apply it. Let's imagine you receive your salary at the beginning of the month. What do most people do? They pay the bills, spend on what they need, and whatever is left, if there's any, goes into savings, right? Well, zero-based budgeting flips this logic. Instead of saving only what's left over, you plan what will happen with every penny of your salary from the start. That's right, every dollar or cent that enters your account already has a designated purpose. Here's how it works. Before the month begins, you make a list of all your expenses, fixed and variable, and decide exactly how much you will spend in each category. And it doesn't stop there. You also define how much you will save, how much you will invest, and even how much you will set aside for leisure or emergencies. At the end of the month, when you add everything up, your balance should be zero. Not because you spent everything, but because every penny was allocated to a specific purpose. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you earn $4,000 per month. With zero-based budgeting, you could decide that $1,500 goes to rent, $800 to food, $200 to transportation, $400 to leisure, $300 to emergencies, and the remaining $800 to a savings or investment account. This way, you've already planned what to do with the entire $4,000, leaving no room for surprise expenses that end up consuming everything at the end of the month. The secret is clarity. Now, why is this so effective? Because it eliminates that feeling of money disappearing without you realizing it. You have complete control, which helps avoid waste. Plus, when you plan ahead, saving doesn't feel like a sacrifice but a conscious choice. Every decision you make aligns with your goals, and every expense has a purpose. This is how many Chinese people manage to accumulate a good financial reserve, even without high salaries. And I'll let you in on a secret. It's not complicated to do. It might seem a bit tedious at first, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes almost like a strategy game, where the goal is to make your money work for you. So, how about starting to apply this technique and seeing how it works in your life? I bet it'll be a pleasant surprise. Speaking of practical strategies, there's one that is very characteristic of Chinese culture and helps many people achieve financial security: the famous 10-to-1 rule. And I'll tell you up front, it might seem radical to some, but I'll explain how it works and how you can adapt it to your reality. Shall we? Now that you know how zero-based budgeting can help you control every penny that comes in and goes out of your account, let's explore an even more interesting strategy that comes directly from Chinese culture. This one is for those who really want to transform the way they save: the famous 10-to-1 rule. This practice is one of the pillars that help explain why the savings rate in China is so high. And don't worry, I'll explain it in a way that you can adapt to your reality, even if it seems challenging at first. The 10-to-1 rule is simple in theory, but it can be a bit difficult to apply in practice, especially at the beginning. But let me explain how it works and why it's worth trying. Essentially, this rule involves living on just 10% of what you earn and saving the other 90%. Sounds impossible? For many people, yes. But you don't need to follow this proportion exactly to learn a valuable lesson about financial discipline. It all started with real stories of people who went through hardships and, because of these experiences, learned to live on as little as possible. One story that illustrates this well is about a man in Shanghai who grew up during a time of extreme scarcity. He practically had nothing to eat and had to learn to survive with very little. When he got a job and started earning an income, he committed to continuing to live simply, even if his financial situation improved. For him, the rule was, if I earn 10, I will only spend 1 and save the other 9. This discipline of living on as little as possible is something many people in China adopt. And it's not because they want to accumulate wealth to show off, but to ensure that they will never face the same difficulties again. And what's the result of this? They manage to build impressive financial security because they are always prepared for emergencies, investment opportunities, and even to help family members in need. Of course, for many people, saving 90% of their salary might seem out of the question. But what we can learn here is the mindset behind this practice. The secret isn't to live a life of sacrifices, but to understand that the more you can save, the more at ease you are to handle the unexpected and plan for the future. So, maybe your adaptation of this rule is to live on 70% of what you earn and save 30%, or perhaps 80% and save 20%. The important thing is to find a balance that works for you. And why does this strategy work so well? Because it forces you to reflect on what is truly necessary and what is superfluous. When you set a limit on how much you can spend, you start making more conscious choices and realize that maybe you don't need as much to live well. And believe me, this is how you begin to change your relationship with money, becoming a more secure and financially prepared person. Speaking of financial security, there's another fundamental aspect of this Chinese mindset that we need to highlight: the aversion to debt and the habit of prioritizing cash purchases. This is one of the reasons why they can keep their finances so well controlled. Let's understand how this works and why it might be a good idea for you too. So, we've seen how the 10-to-1 rule is a lesson in financial discipline and how it can transform your relationship with money. But now, let's move on to another fundamental pillar of the Chinese savings mindset, something that for many is a real challenge: avoiding debt and always prioritizing cash purchases. You might wonder why this is so important, and I'll show you that this habit can make all the difference for your financial security. Let's go. Nowadays, it's almost impossible not to be tempted by credit offers, interest-free installments, financing, and that promise of buy now, pay later. But for many people in China, this idea of paying in installments and getting stuck in debt is not that attractive. They prefer to save and pay in cash, even if it means waiting a little longer to acquire what they want. And there is a powerful reason for this. In Chinese financial culture, debt is seen as something to be avoided at all costs. And this is not just a matter of numbers but a mindset. When you buy in cash, you are in control. You don't owe anyone, and most importantly, you don't have to worry about accumulating interest increasing the final price of a product. Now, if you are constantly paying installments, your financial freedom becomes limited. And this lack of flexibility can be very damaging if unexpected situations arise. Think about it: if you have to pay multiple installments every month and suddenly an emergency comes up, how will you handle it? Or worse, if there is a drop in your income, these debts can snowball and consume everything you have. That's why many Chinese choose the security of paying in cash. They know that this way there are no unpleasant surprises at the end of the month, and more importantly, their money is always under control. Now, I'm not saying that it's never valid to use credit. There are moments when it can be useful and even necessary. But the key is, use it sparingly and only when you know exactly how you're going to pay it off. And most importantly, never let credit become a tool for impulsive consumption. The Chinese have a saying, if you can't buy it twice, then don't buy it. In other words, if you don't have the money to pay in cash, maybe it's better to wait a bit and save more. That way, when you finally make the purchase, it will be without the burden of debt. Another benefit of prioritizing cash purchases is that you start to think twice before spending. It's very easy to pay in installments and not even feel the impact on your budget, but when you need to pay the full amount at once, you reconsider whether you really need that purchase. This helps to avoid impulse buying and focus on what is essential for you. And you know what's great? When you adopt this practice, you begin to realize that many of the things you thought you needed aren't really that necessary. Gradually, you end up accumulating not just products but also financial security and freedom. And that is liberating. Now, if you're wondering how to adopt this mindset without giving up everything you like, don't worry. We're still going to talk about a habit that can help balance your finances without sacrificing quality of life: buying used or refurbished products. It may seem simple, but it's a powerful strategy. Let's understand how it works and why it's worth considering. See how avoiding debt and prioritizing cash purchases can transform your financial life? It's a simple habit, but it brings an incredible feeling of freedom and control. And I'll tell you this mindset can protect you from a lot of headaches in the future. Now, if you enjoyed this tip and are already thinking about how to apply it in your life, take a moment to comment below. I will prioritize cash purchases. I want to know who's willing to change their relationship with money. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss any tips like this, and you'll help others discover these financial secrets. Deal. Now let's move on to the next strategy. Here's a practice that many people underestimate, but it makes all the difference when it comes to saving. Buying used or refurbished products. And look, I'm not talking about sacrificing quality or living in scarcity, but rather making smart choices that respect your wallet and even help the environment. In China, this mindset is very common. When they need something, many people don't rush to buy the latest brand new model. They look for more affordable and practical options, including second-hand or refurbished products. And there's a very clear reason for this. It's much cheaper, and in most cases the quality is practically the same. Imagine this. You want to buy a new phone, but instead of spending a fortune on the latest release, you look for a refurbished model that has been fully inspected, is in great condition, and costs much less. What happens? You save a lot of money and still get a device that meets all your needs. And the best part, without getting into debt. And this concept doesn't apply only to electronics. Clothes, appliances, furniture, bicycles, even cars. All of these can be found in used or refurbished versions, often in great condition. And you know what's even better? This habit not only helps save money but is also a way to consume more sustainably. Instead of feeding the cycle of rampant consumerism, you are reusing something that still has value, which reduces waste and the environmental impact. Another advantage is that when you buy used products, you avoid the depreciation that happens as soon as a new item leaves the store. If you've ever bought a new car, you know it loses value as soon as you drive it off the lot. With a used car, that depreciation has already happened, so you are paying much closer to the real value of the vehicle. In the end, you end up making a better deal. Now, think about this. How many times have you paid a high price for something just because it was new, but later realized it wasn't worth it? The truth is that many times, a used or refurbished item can offer you the same experience without straining your budget. And this is one of the main reasons why the Chinese can save so much. They know that when it comes to saving, it's better to be smart than to be in a rush. Did you like this tip? Then drop a comment. I will invest in used. I want to know if you're also starting to think differently about how you spend your money. And to wrap this up nicely, let's talk about something even deeper. How this savings mindset goes beyond money and becomes a philosophy of life. Stick around, there's more to come. So, we've seen how choosing to buy used or refurbished products can be a smart strategy to save money and also help the environment. It's a simple practice, but it reflects a mindset of conscious and planned consumption. But now, I want to bring up something that goes beyond everyday practices and is essential for you to truly change how you view money. Because in the end, saving is more than just accumulating. It's a way of life. And to explain this, we need to talk about changing your financial mindset. Let me start by asking, when you think about saving, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For many people, the idea of saving is associated with giving up, making sacrifices, and living with less. And honestly, this is a mindset that can greatly hinder your journey to financial stability. In China, even though saving is encouraged in a disciplined and cautious manner, there's also an understanding that money is not just to be saved but to be a tool that helps improve quality of life. And this is where the need to change how we think about money comes in. For the Chinese, saving is not synonymous with living a limited life, but with creating security and freedom to make choices in the future. That's why many Chinese adopt a long-term approach to their finances. They know that by saving today, they are ensuring the possibility of enjoying life more tomorrow. And this change in perspective is powerful. Let me give you an example. Imagine you really want to buy something expensive, but instead of paying in installments or going into debt, you decide to save a little every month until you can pay for it in cash. During this time, you're not sacrificing your present, but rather planning for your future. And when you finally make the purchase, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that it was an achievement, not a debt. This mindset of abundance is what helps turn saving into something positive, not a burden. And if you're wondering how to change this mindset, start small. Stop seeing the act of saving as a chore and view it as a form of empowerment. Every penny you save is one more step toward the freedom to choose what to do with your money. And this shift in thinking is what can give you the motivation to keep the habit of saving, even when it feels challenging. Now, there's one important thing. I'm not saying you should save money and never spend it. The idea is to find a balance. because as your finances improve, it's crucial that you also learn to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Saving is important, but allowing yourself small pleasures is also part of a balanced life. The key is to be conscious, plan, and understand that money is a tool to improve your quality of life, not just something to be accumulated. We've reached a really interesting point. We've seen how the habits of saving, avoiding debt, and making conscious purchases form the foundation of a solid financial life. But what's even better is realizing how these practices connect and create a true philosophy of life. It's not just about saving for the sake of saving, but about building a healthy relationship with money, based on smart and sustainable choices. And now, to wrap it up perfectly, let's tie all these ideas together and see how they complement each other. Stick with me because there's one last tip that will bring all the content together. The big takeaway from these strategies we've discussed so far, like the 10-to-1 rule, zero-based budgeting, and the practice of buying used products, is that they all have a greater purpose: to create financial security and freedom. That's why, for the Chinese, the act of saving goes far beyond simply accumulating money. They see money as a tool to gain freedom. Freedom to make choices, to face emergencies without panic, to invest in something important, and above all, to ensure a peaceful future. Think about it. When you manage to save consistently, you free yourself from many everyday worries. You don't have to stress as much about whether you'll be able to pay all the bills at the end of the month because you've already planned for that with zero-based budgeting. And more than that, by avoiding debt and prioritizing cash purchases, you free yourself from the stress of owing money and the interest that seems never-ending. This way, you gain control over your money instead of being controlled by it. And the security you build isn't just for today. Over time, you start to accumulate a financial reserve that can be used for future opportunities. Maybe an investment, a dream trip, or even the peace of mind knowing you're prepared for any unexpected situation. This is the true essence of financial freedom, the ability to make choices without the burden of constantly chasing after money. Moreover, by adopting practices like buying used and refurbished products, you're not only saving money but also helping the environment. This creates a positive cycle. You spend less, make more sustainable choices, and at the same time, maximize the value of your money. And let's be honest, it also gives a sense of accomplishment. Knowing that you've made a smart choice and are taking care of both your wallet and the planet is something powerful. But I know that, for many, these changes can seem big at first. That's why I want to leave you with one final tip. Start small. You don't need to change everything at once. Begin with small goals like saving a percentage of your salary, avoiding an installment purchase, or looking for used products on your next buy. Over time, these small habits will turn into big changes in your financial life. So, if you're ready to take the next step toward your financial freedom, comment below. I will adopt this philosophy. I want to see who is committed to building a more balanced and secure life. And if you haven't done it yet, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll keep getting more tips and strategies to improve your relationship with money. So, are we going on this journey to financial freedom together? See you in the next video.